Good morning. Wow. I don't know if anybody saw that right cross coming yesterday. Excuse me. Wow. What a sell day. I haven't seen one of those in quite a long time. And I'm not sure exactly what triggered it. NVIDIA gapping up and just institutional selling. I don't know. Maybe if anybody knows, throw it out there. But I mean, it was relentless. And you can see I just SMH because this gapped up because of NVIDIA valuations. All of a sudden, it's like, I don't know, Alex. Well, all in that moment, I don't know. It's like, anyway, SMH gapped up because the semis gapped up and they had this reversal. But just look at that pattern. It's not your typical bull sandwich type of scenario, because this is such a monster bar gapping up like that and then engulfing. But that's the idea behind a bull sandwich, meaning a big, relatively large red bar, a green bar, and then another red bar. And so here we go. And, you just have to look at it, logically. It's like, it's not getting above the high of that bar anytime soon. Certainly not today. And suggests it go down. But after a day like this, we typically have a narrow range day. And now that we do that with any of the wide range bars that we see, the factory work is, let's see if it stays in the lower half or in the lower third as it tries to retrace a bit, being extended short term in intraday, and then trying to, typically retrace a little bit, bottom out, into this support area, which you can see these last three bars, those lows. And it's on a 2 minute. Let's put it on a 30-minute. Get a little more data. You can see the pivots there. Say it again. Got to say it almost every day. Look to the left. Why? It stopped going down there because that was support. What was resistance became support. There were two pivots, and it's a monster, what we call gap and crap. And on the way down, it just went through that support, and then odds were it was going to go down to the next, and then there it is. So looking at the broader markets and SPY, we spoke yesterday about these converging moving averages and this resistance, and that it would likely have a hard time trying to advance much further than there. And it went up a little bit and it collapsed and collapsed and collapsed and collapsed right into the close, and even broke down below that pivot low. Now it's, just hanging here a bit. And as we always look where it is on the wide range bar. It's gapping up a little bit. I don't know, it's not even above the lower quarter, I would say. So very weak. And of course, we have the Fed chair going to be speaking today, and everybody be listening what he's going to say on the edge of their seat, what's he going to do and say, and so on. But look, it's not getting back above the high of that bar today. Is it going to go back down here? I don't think sellers would be that aggressive after such a wide range day, so I don't think it would go much lower. This bottoming tail bar right here. Yeah, let's see this pivot. So if it does continue to go down somewhere in here, it's already extended to the downside, so not unlikely to go a lot further. And typically, I could say consolidation day. Now, yesterday, where things were green in the morning, one of my comments was, well, if it does close green by the end of the week, would it turn into a continuation pattern down? And of course, who knows? But now we've got a topping tail. So what do we do with this? Meaning, What does that mean? Well, it just means slowing momentum right now. And it could result in a continuation move lower, but this isn't an uptrend. So always trying to be objective. I look at this picture on the daily chart and I say, there's no way that thing isn't going lower, right? Because of the size of this bar. However, the weekly chart's in an uptrend and it's in an area of support. This candle, we'll see where it ends the day, but communicates slowing momentum. So I guess I would be somewhat surprised, see if it was to gap down Monday and then start to work on a green bar. It's always, bar by bar analysis, trying to keep an open mind, not getting too into, okay, it's got to collapse because of this kind of a bar, which was generally what it leads us to think because it's such a massive bearish bar. Coming down here, look at where this major support level is down here. And 430 is open interest, levels in SPX and so on. But this 430 and this pivot low, this area right here, the 6% target, it could come down there. And you see the 20 MA on the weekly chart is there. You see where the cursor is. That's roughly where the 100 MA is on the daily chart. So should we get more downside into next week, that would be where we would look for buyers potentially to show up. And, other than being September, we've got it was a Labor Day holiday coming up and all of that. And so we'll see how this turns up. But right now, even if it does go lower, I don't think that we should be getting too bearish until we see more information as to what's going to play out between these multiple time frames. So SPX, this was the first time in quite a long time that you needed to get the hell out of the way, because this went through our bottom strike yesterday. So if you weren't looking at that, thinking about getting the heck out of the way, you would have got your head handed to you, but it never came close to the top strike. So these are today. And as I said, ideally, most of the time, what's going to happen is, you're going to get a trading range today, probably somewhere. That's typically what happens, somewhere in here like that. Even if it goes below today's low a little bit, it'll just jiggle around. So the top side, I would say, let's have a little bit of objectivity and say 99.9% it isn't going up there today. Going down here today, I don't think so, but a greater possibility after that, especially something comes out of the Fed chair's mouth. But, look just how that went down yesterday. I mean, short-term extended, absolutely. The selling was just relentless. And so, and the selling was pretty much everywhere. Well, not so much in energy, but look at tech, of course, with NVIDIA doing what it did, gap and reversal all the way down, still weekly chart, slowing momentum candle, not that big of a deal yet. If it's going to be a big deal, we won't know until next week. So we'll see. And, most of the time, ahead of holidays, market tends to do relatively well. So just keep that in mind. Just, again, repeating after a day like this, it kind of raises thoughts of an Armageddon kind of scenario, but we'll see how it plays out. The Russell, not too bad, but it led the way down. It was already extended lower. And, while it's an engulfing bar, not a big deal. Just kind of chopping around there. And it's down pretty far. The Dow came out of the blocks yesterday, first thing in the morning. And you see how it was going up. So it was kind of strange. It was like things started to sell off and the Dow was ripping higher. And all of a sudden it just, collapsed under the weight of what everything else that was going on. And So this little consolidation was okay. If it breaks that low, where's it going to stop? So now, other than maybe having a narrow range day like this might be, you would think it's coming down here into this area of price support in the 200-day moving average. And as a novice chart reader, isn't just a sell setup on a daily at the declining 20 MA and of course seasonal pressure. I'm not sure which chart I was on, John, but one of my comments yesterday during the week was, as prices were moving up, what I said was this was coming into what should be a sell zone area, and that's how we view it. But with any moving average, it's subjective. So we say, does the moving average line up with price resistance and kind of a retracement of some level, nothing to do with Fibonacci, but a reasonable retracement based on the prior move down. DC, social media, for those in the Green City, heard Charles Schwab is having layoffs yesterday. Maybe someone inside info about the banks. I don't know, DC. I mean, look, since this whole year and the whole recession, is it going to recession? Is it going to be a soft landing? And as things, the tightening of interest rates, it's kind of lessened a bit. But I mean, a few months ago, it was like every single day we were hearing this company laid off 5,000, this one laid off 10,000, this one laid off 2,000. And so as we're hearing so many people are losing their jobs and inflation being what it is, and then the counterintuitive part of, the consumer is going to save the day with recession and yield curves inverted, it's been an interesting year of information that would suggest a bearish view, and the market actually did quite well. You can just look at the chart, look at the weekly chart here. I mean, it started out with a big giant mess, right? Where, it went down and then it came up, and then we had few months of doing nothing. And then the advance started, in June, and we had a few months up, and that we had many conversations about the weak breath, because it was the FANG stocks that were going up, and so many sectors. It was, as you look at different sectors, it was all about technology, communications, and consumer discretionary, and pretty much everything else was doing nothing. And then, there was some participation in select sectors. So it hasn't been a no-brainer or such an easy type of year where everything was advancing and you could have thrown a dart. It certainly wasn't that way. So, as we're here right now, probably some consolidation after this big ugly red bar. And just looking at some other markets as we do. Silver is stalled here, and gold didn't move up very much. And, surprised it did at all, because the dollar, which we reviewed, weeks ago, when it was down here, that it was at the bottom of the trading range. And as it started to move up, we talked about, hey, this dollar moving up and interest rates moving up, that's not a good scenario for the markets. And now you can see today that it's continuing to move higher. And I think this is what played out in part of, other than news, because one of the things we talked about was, hey, over here, internals gave us a heads up. It's a problem. Over here, it told us, hey, risk on the short side is grown quite a bit. But we didn't have an, all clear scenario, because the dollar was moving up and we had interest rates moving up. So, these have pulled back a little bit, and that helped on that turnaround day. Now the dollar continues to move up. If the 10-year, this starts to move up, maybe the beginning of next week could be a little ugly, if these interest rates continue to move up. And look, we'll just have to see what comes out of his mouth today. I'm sure he's going to avoid saying something that would rattle the markets more, but you'll never know. This was gasoline going up as it did. So there were so many things to suggest the market would correct a bit, and it has. So now we'll just see, how far it goes. Bitcoin, we all know, got decimated after this very somewhat convincing bottoming pattern with these bottoming tails in that green bar. So this is what happens when bullish patterns don't work out and demand turns into supply and things collapse as they did. I'll just take a look at the transports, then hand it over to Dan. So we always, that held up pretty well, but I would suggest putting an alert under these lows and another one above these highs, just as maybe a guide as to what the broader markets might do, because if this starts to break down, you're probably going to be seeing other things moving lower. So, set the alert, let the computer watch it. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Happy 0 DTE day. I have two earnings trades here that might set up for 0 DTE. Let's look at them. Not a lot of earnings. Marvel here. Nasty reversal everywhere yesterday. So we're going to be looking for selling call spreads on bounces for next week. But obviously today we'll be looking for 0 DTE. Old Roger and I shorted puts on this, the 11s. And so that I'm just going to put a stop yesterday's low, let it expire at full profit. A couple of retail here that are flat. There's been some wild moves in retail this week. This one doing nothing. DKS got whacked. Foot Locker whacked. HIB is today. We were talking. I was considering selling a put spread. Things that go from this far into earnings doesn't mean I'm right, but that's my bias. Selling a put spread. That would have worked. PAGS continuation short. It's this. See, now this one's down a lot, but for the last 8 bars, it's bearish price action. Daily, weekly, monthly look horrible. I mean, that's a pretty big gap though on a $8 stock. JWN, another one doing nothing, but there's no pattern, but it's weakest to me. Curdo 16. I like the gap into this red bar, but what I don't like is all that resistance over there. All right, workday. This was the one that I'm going to watch for a 0 DTE earnings. There's 0 pattern for a swing, but I like that it's gapping over this 15-minute base here. So it's deep. It's deep into yesterday's. It's greater than 50%. So let's just see how it stabilizes at the open. Intuit. This was what I was considering a short strangle. I did not do it. There's no pattern now. Ulta. I think this also I was considering because you could go so far away. I forget the strikes we were talking about, Greg. It was like the 520 and the 350. It was crazy wide. And that would have been a home run, but I'm watching this as a put spread also. Same idea. There's 0 pattern for a swing. but I like the gap over this 15-minute resistance. So if it holds 10, 15-minute high, whatever, I'll be seeing what the juice is, yesterday's low. Now, Domo, I was saying I would have loved this pattern had it open flat. And then I was going to give a buy over yesterday's high, daily, weekly, monthly. And that is a disaster du jour today. That is nasty. I mean, what percent is that? It's gapping down 620 divided by 17. What is that? The answer is nasty, is what that is. Man. All right, HIB we talked about, but no pattern. Southern here is on my short watch list. It's a failed double bottom with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars, unable to bounce. The weekly 1, 2, 3. The 30-minute low, short watch there. I think Alex Powell's coming on a 10:05. Where do they come up with these numbers, Alex? Oh, I think I'll have coffee and start talking at 10:05. How does that sound, guys? Nothing we can do about it. So my point is, yeah, if you know, other than maybe these 0 DTEs, we recommend a little caution here ahead of those Powell comments. And I'm assuming that he's going to have some prepared statements. So, okay. I'm assuming he'll give a prepared statement. And then start blabbing, you know, kind of like they do at a Fed meeting, but that's just a guess. All right, Roku here. That was an ugly reversal yesterday also. I personally actually have some 76 puts that are expiring today, so I'm holding my breath here. This had earnings, which shows it up at 11:20, but I don't see any prints. I'm going to put it here. If it is opening at 11:20, then that's a beautiful gap over a red bar. So this is in play. Light volume though. RCL. It needs to bobble around here a little bit more, but if things continue ugly, this has room to fall. Look at this big old void topping pattern, 180 reversal here. I just don't like these 3 bars to the left of it, which all that means is I want another inside bar or 2. So maybe for next Monday or Tuesday. McGraw gave me deck as a short. It's just down too much intraday, but you need a bounce. And then McGraw, I mentioned you could, if you want to go out 3 weeks, you can do a 560, 570 call spread. Hawaiian Electric here, obviously in the news with the Maui fires gapping down. What's this little 10:05? All right, so wow, it's gapping 80 cents under this prior low. But I'm going to watch it. The puts are astronomically high for good reason. You know, 30-minute high, I might consider selling the $5 puts. I'll tell you if it sets up. And this was earnings, this wide range bar. I think it was. Not sure. Let's see, you know, we say a wide range bar apart from the 20 on volume is, hey, it's a heads up that it could be a short-term bottom, but see, here's proof. It's not the same as actual bottom. Of course not. It's just a bias to start watching it. Let's see how momentum is a lot slower than this wide range bar. So I have an alarm at 2640, I think. So this could be a day trade. I already checked puts, and shockingly, they're not very juicy. EFS, this is that EV stock Barron's mentioned last weekend, how overvalued it is. And look at this thing, like a slap in the face to whoever wrote that article. Oh, now it's actually a bullish 15-minute chart. But it's pretty toppy and trades very wildly. PG, topping tail. Yes and no, David. And the reason I say that is because it's a buy setup. So yeah, topping tail, it got whacked with the broader market. But the question is this a bearish pattern with a price void? And the answer is no. I mean, I like that RCL better, the deck better. What else? SO, Southern better, because this to me suggests target of gap fill. Definitely not a swing short. So then I go to the intraday if you're talking day trading, and yeah, it had an upside shakeout on the 15-minute chart. So yeah, it could be a day trade watch, sure. Here's my gap fill down here, 151.90. So it's a watch, but I just think they can find better setups. That's all. All right. I think I'm done here. Let's just look at some other things. Coin, I was watching for a turn, but victim of the broader markets. Let's look at some FANGs. Microsoft's ugly. And ugly everywhere. Meta, we were talking about shorting yesterday, buying puts. That's a nasty sell setup reversal. The monthly is a 180 reversal. That's cooked. So of the FANGs, I like Meta the best as they swing short. Google, big old upside shakeout. Tesla, nothing going. So yeah, wherever this thing opened, I just have a bias of selling the news based on this monthly to all-time highs. There's just too much bullish sentiment. And so what that means is a contrarian is it's baked in. Who's left to buy? If everyone and their cousin and their brother and sister are already long the stock, who's left? I got a couple Climos here that I'm watching for stabilization. See how momentum slowed? So this, ideally, will do nothing today and maybe an idea for next week. Said G, I've been watching for 3 weeks for bottoming. No, zero sign of a turn. That's part of this tan. Solar ETF looks horrible. Pod, look at these things. They're just nasty liquidation here. Upstart, I was watching this as a turn here. Failed again. Looks like it's headed down to the 200. I just had an alarm go off. We have a put spread on this right there. My alarm is at 3:30. If it is opening at 3:30, I'll be taking the stop and maybe looking to take half. Let me set a new alarm, 3:30 spot 10, just to make sure that's not a bad tick. Wow, the tick is 1180. So tick is very, very strong for this. I wouldn't call this an impressive gap.
It's all the people that held overnight thinking it was going to gap down. We had that discussion yesterday.
Hughes is the weakest gap into this. Oh, look at this remember I said AW, this earnings thing right here, AMSWA. All right, see, I said if it were gap in there, it's bullish, but I don't chase. I don't chase earning stocks in the first 5 minutes, but that's a nice gap set up there. Roger, I don't know if you're here, but our firm naked, there is a nice